I'm Barbara Corcoran, and once I figured out how to run a business, I became the queen of New York real estate. Now I'm sharing my secrets on my new podcast called Business Unusual. Search Business Unusual on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Christina Lynn Podcast.
Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see? Do you know how much I make a year? You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am the danger. I am the one who knocks.
As I've stated in the Why I Don't Drink Alcohol episode, my Thirsty Thursdays take on a whole other meaning. I don't drink beer, I don't drink wine, I don't drink champagne, I don't drink any kind of cocktails. But what I do drink a lot of is everything else. I am a designer beverage junkie, and even just generally beverage junkie. I am the one that will buy that $5 bottle of water or that $5 cup of coffee. Maybe not 50, but 5. So this Thirsty Thursday is about one of my favorite beverages, coffee. Yeah. Boring old coffee. Not really that boring, though. Since I love researching things and putting some information together, I decided to do some research on coffee. So here we are. We're going to learn about coffee. So a coffee bean is actually a seed of a berry. And the reason that anyone calls it a bean is just because it looks like one. Because it comes from a fruit, it's actually called a stone fruit. So when everyone says coffee bean, you think stone fruit because that's actually more accurate. Coffee plants are grown in rows and sometimes are surrounded by other fruit trees. Due to the specific conditions that coffee plants need, they are sometimes planted on hills. The two types of coffee are Arabica and Robusta. Arabica coffee is grown in 59 to 75 degree weather, and Robusta is best grown in 75 to 86 degree weather, so a little bit warmer. Cultivation involves handpicking the ripe fruit, or if you're fancy, you can buy some really expensive coffee made from beans that went through the digestive system of an animal. I'm serious. They feed the fruit to this animal called an Asian palm civet, which I may be saying wrong. Maybe you can say it differently. It's civet. But they eat the coffee berries and then they poop out the beans. The beans are then taken, cultivated, and sold. This coffee is typically $100 to $500 by the pound or $35 to $80 a cup. The reason for the wide range is because it depends if the civet was wild or not, or what region they came from. So kind of like if you farm fish or they're wild fish. After the stone fruit, bean, or seed, however you want to call it, is extracted from the berry, they are then wet or dry processed. Wet or washed process is a more expensive method and involves a 2-day fermentation. Dry processing is cheaper and easier, and generally the faster way to process a mass amount of beans. If done right, dry processing can produce premium beans, stone fruits, or seeds, however you want to refer to them. There are a couple different theories as to how it was originally found. One theory is that there was a goat herder who realized that the goats that he was herding were overly excited after eating berries off of a tree. Another one is a Yemenite mystic said he saw unusually energetic birds flying over his village. And then the third is that of a chief named Omar who was living in a cave. He found the berries, ate them, found them to be bitter, roasted them, found that dried him out, and then he boiled them and drank that new brown water that he made. And he found himself with unnatural and exceptional energy. Coffee is said to have been the fuel behind a social revolution. People started gathering together to drink coffee and socialize. The coffee houses were called schools of the wise, a place you went to if you wanted to be in the loop about happenings in the world. This actually caused some resentment and drama in some communities, which I'll get to in a little bit. So what are the different ways to consume coffee? I think a lot of us know a lot of them. And in case you don't, here we go. My favorite, straight up black, free of any cream, sugar, or anything like that. This is the best way, in my opinion, because you can actually taste the flavor of a coffee. While I was working at Starbucks, I learned how to do a coffee tasting, which is where you typically French press a specific roast and then slurp it almost like a wine. Believe it or not, you can taste the different notes and the different roasts and flavors that are used in the roasting process when you do that. Another way to enhance the flavor of coffee is actually pairing it with something either complementary or similar to the notes within the roast. So, for example, if there's a roast that has a little bit of chocolate in it, you could either pair it with another chocolate food item or something that complements chocolate so that it brings it out a little bit more. In fact, part of the training to be a coffee master at Starbucks, which came with its own color apron, I'm not kidding. You see those green aprons everywhere? You don't really see the black apron. If you see a black apron Starbucks partner, you know that they know their coffee. So at Starbucks, to become a coffee master, you actually had to do coffee tastings and correct or complementary food pairings with different roasts. You had to also be able to identify different roasts by tasting them. Fast food chains typically expect you to add sugar and cream to their coffee, and therefore a lower quality basic roast or easily mass-produced kind of coffee. For people like me that drink it black or iced with no cream, no sugar, you can really taste the kind of grittiness of this coffee. It's meant to be mixed with something. At higher-end cafes who value the processing, cultivation, and roasts of their beans, they'll kind of look down on you for adding anything to your cup of coffee. To them, it's like dressing on a salad. How do you actually taste the vegetables when it's smothered in ranch? And this is where espresso comes in. Espresso is like the concentrated version of a regular coffee bean. Higher caffeine, best when purposefully mixed with milk or a combination of ingredients. A latte is more steamed milk than foam, and a cappuccino is more foam than steamed milk. Just a little espresso shot is your full cup of coffee distilled down into a few concentrated sips. And now for some random drama around coffee history. Did you know that when coffee first hit Europe, it was met with suspicion and religious prejudice? A previous governor of Mecca believed that coffee could become the reason that people came together to discuss his failings and their disapproval of him, and therefore he banned it. At one point, it was decreed sinful, and whether or not it should be considered an intoxicant went on for 13 years. Catholics referred to the coffee as a bitter invention of Satan. They saw it as a substitute for wine that they used in Eucharist, and subsequently outlawed it. Pope Clement VIII intervened, tried coffee for himself, and then declared that it was a Christian and a Muslim drink. He was quoted as saying, "This devil's drink is so delicious, we should cheat the devil by baptizing it." Coffee houses were boys-only clubs, unless you were a prostitute. In fact, a lot of women had dissent and resentment towards this. A woman named Mary Estelle wrote this about men spending more time in coffee houses than at home. He converses more with newspapers, gazettes, and votes than with his shop books, and his constant application to the public takes him off all care for his private home. He is always settling the nation, yet could never manage his own family. This was about a guy spending time at a coffee shop. Yikes. How do you take your coffee? What's your favorite place to get it from? Did I pique any kind of interest in it for you? You think you're going to try another roast? You think you're not? All right, well, whatever. This has been a distraction from your daily life. Enjoy your coffee or tea or water or whatever it is that makes you happy. And head over to ChristinaLynn.com, that's XTINALYNNE, for more content. In the next couple Thirsty Thursdays, I'm going to be taking your votes, asking questions, and seeing what else you'd like me to cover. The Christina Lynn Podcast.
Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see?